gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, Kingsport. It's August the 1st, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, rejoined by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by Life Wallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, we're back. We are back. We're rested. We fit in our few days vacation. We are ready to go. And this is going to be the start of a big few months for the Miami Hurricanes, for us here at CaneSport. We've got Media Day this week. We've got the start of training camp this week. Canes Fest makes a return next weekend. We will have wall-to-wall coverage on all of those things. But today, I think we should start, Matt, by talking about the Elite Recruit Barbecue that took place over the weekend. And a lot of big-time prospects were on campus, and it gave us a chance to catch up with the kids. It gave the coaches a chance to reaffirm their relationships and keep building on the ones that aren't sealed yet, like the Jordan Halls of the world. And all in all, I thought it was a great event on Saturday.
Yeah, and look, as you know, I never do what you want, so I'm here to talk about my vacation. It went very well. Thanks for asking. I'd like to thank my backup host, Roy Firestone. He did an adequate job, in my opinion, filling in for me. My wife told me that the show was much better without me on it. However, I think she just didn't want me to wake up at 5 in the morning anymore to tape it. So I believe that's where that was coming from. So yeah, the recruiting event was great. It was nice to get back to work, which, it's funny. We have a new CaneSport expert, Zuby Charles, who joined us. And I said to Zuby, we were all at the event together, and you weren't with us for this portion when I was talking to him, but I said to him, listen, this isn't a job, I said, 90% of this is fun. The only 10% that's not fun is when you have to tape a Good Morning CaneSport segment and get ridiculed by fans. The other 90% is great. You're not sitting behind a desk. It's not inputting data all day long, and there's always something different. So he got a taste of what recruiting events are all about, and the barbecue was a success from everything I can tell. We got feedback from a lot of top kids, but like I've said, recruiting's always been a journey, but like I've said, NIL throws this stuff all haywire. I was talking to a top coach, actually from upstate in Florida the other day, and he was saying how, and look, I'll tell you who it was. It was Tommy Kinsler's coach. I don't think it was a secret that he was telling me this, but I didn't put this in the story, but we were just talking about how recruiting's changed because he's been coaching for a long time, and I talked to him years ago about one of his other prospects. But he's a highly respected coach, even though he's a former Gator, And he was saying, listen, man, with NIL here, it's recruiting is not recruiting anymore. It's the salary, and it's who's going to pay me the highest salary. Why would a recruit go somewhere that's not going to pay him the highest salary? All of you watching this show, if you're an employee somewhere, another company offers you more money for a somewhat similar job, perhaps in a colder area of the world than Florida, but you might prefer to take the money. So even as the commitment list looks great, even as things are going really well and they're getting visits from guys like Jurian Dickey, who's a 5-star committed to Oregon, and all these other guys who are looking at Miami that Miami's going to push for over the next few months, I me, Debbie Downer, I always remain concerned that the day before signing day in December, some guy's going to contact these kids' lawyers, and guess what? These kids tell me, yeah, I have an agent, yeah, I have a lawyer. They have hired people or people who are going to get money. They haven't hired them and paid them, but they're represented by these people who are going to get money from them eventually as they sign these NIL deals, and it's legal for them to hire these people right now and have them in place as advisors. Someone contacts this advisor and says, hey, man, I am willing to tell you right now and have a deal on the table tomorrow that I'll give your guy whatever, $400,000, $1 million, whatever it is that player still going to sign with Miami? And it's not right. It's not the way recruiting should be. It's not why I signed up to be a college football fan or a college football reporter, but it's the new age. And Tommy's coach was saying, he's rooting for Tommy at Miami, even though he's a Florida guy. He just roots for his guys wherever they go. But, is this over? He said recruiting's recruiting. He said it's not over for anybody. Not specific to Tommy. It's not over for anybody. So fans can celebrate when, Jaden Bonsu commits August 20th, when so-and-so comes on board, when we have 16 commits on board. But me, man, I always worry. And it doesn't matter to me that kids are saying it's done. I'm over, Ray saying, oh yeah, man, I'm not talking to anybody else, or Jackson Carver saying coaches are calling me. I'm not talking to them. It's money at the end of the day. These families, these recruits, it's about the money. It's not about the program. It's not about only the program anymore.
Well, your fan club is rejoicing because you just gave them about 4 minutes of uninterrupted Matt Shodell speak.
That was basically a DNR right off the bat. But my whole thing is always a DNR. So what's the difference?
But they've been pining for you. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh yeah,
they've been pleading for the return of Matt.
Let me tell you something about human nature, Gary. People like to see miserable people. You know why? Because it makes them feel better. Like, this guy's so miserable. I'm not that miserable. So you feel better about yourself, Just watch this show. You people will be very happy over the next several months with your own lives watching me pine about the Miami Hurricanes program and my own thoughts, and where college football's heading.
The good thing is there's going to be a lot to talk about. It's going to be a wild training camp and all sorts of subplots, and it's going to be great. But just finishing off this subject, I totally agree with everything you said. I can't believe it, but it is going to end up being about the money in so many cases. And, you could sit there and play semantics with what the rules are, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Oh, is prospect A allowed to look into his NIL possibilities after he commits or before he commits, or, whatever that gray area is that the NCAA still has in place for whatever reason is totally beyond me. It's absurd. But yeah, it's going to end up being a lot about the money, and you're going to see movement here during the season in November. I think you're going to see a lot of movement in December, because I think there's going to be a reset at the end of the football season when all these schools get a chance to watch all these players play out their senior years. Guys' values are going to go up. Guys' values are going to go down in some cases. There's going to be commits. There's going to be decommits. There's going to be a reshuffling. In some cases, it is going to be the return of the Wild Wild West in December. I think it's unavoidable. And I think in a lot of cases, it's going to come down to money. And the thing that bothers me, Matt, and I've spoken about this to a few people, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but the thing that's troublesome is you have different levels of guidance that these different kids have. Some have two parent homes with professional parents. Some have single parent homes with people that are struggling to get by every day and every week. You have the whole gamut. Obviously, when you're dealing with recruiting and all the different prospects and stuff. And the thing that's troublesome to me is what I'm hearing is that kid A will be committed to Miami, and or about to commit to Miami or whatever, and if a school comes in and says, we'll pay you $10,000 more than their NIL organizations are willing to pay you, kids are flipping and decide, and that's what they're basing their school decisions on. And I mean, down to as minuscule amount of money as 10 grand. And I know to somebody who doesn't have 10 grand, that sounds like 10 million. But in the scope of a kid and his athletic career and his prospects to play in the National Football League and things like that, 10 grand is pocket change, especially when you add into the equation that these kids are given money by the schools for meals and things like that and living expenses and stuff. I mean, shoot, Matt, we're standing in front of the athletic center yesterday, and we're seeing, kids driving up in shiny BMWs again and stuff like that.
Oh my God. A couple of cars were ridiculous.
Yeah. And these guys have money in their
I
pockets
mean,
now,
yeah,
and
I was talking with Todd Stroud. It was a huge rims, this like SUV that I've never even seen a car like this. Okay, BMW that was like ridiculous. And I was standing with Todd Stroud. I said, "Hey Todd, I didn't know that was your car." And he's like, "Oh yeah, right." He said, "My car's way bigger than that." We were just laughing about it. But it's crazy, man. And I'll tell you a couple of look. The current players are having fun with the NIL deal, and the recruits are having fun with the process. Like Frankie Tinnelau, I'm talking to him yesterday, Miami commitment from Australia, and some fan had on our message board was having a good time about me mentioning to him, "Are you gonna have some shrimp on the Barbie?" and talking about kangaroos. How many stupid things can I say about Australia in 1 minute? Well, I could say more than that, but I held it down to 2. But like even Frankie, right? We were talking and. He after the event ended, I reached out to him, how to go or whatever, and he says his favorite part was going fishing. And I'm like, going fishing? Like he says he went fishing behind the pool. I'm like, in the lake?
In the lake, yeah.
In the lake? He's like, yeah. First of all, I don't know how many. I'm sure most of the people watching on here have been on Miami's campus. Like if there's any fish in that lake, it's nothing you really want to catch. And there's supposedly an alligator in there. So I said, did you catch the alligator? Because people always talk about the alligator in the lake. He says, no, I caught a great white, so he was having fun with it. And even Ray, I'm talking to Ray. I'm like, I said, Ray, this is before the event when he was walking in, we were chatting for a while. And I said, just promise me one thing. I said, don't jump off the high board. You're a Miami commitment. There's no reason to risk anything. Like, it's dangerous, man. I don't know how many of you have seen that high board. It's high. And if you like belly flop on that, I think you'd be in the hospital.
I think it's a true, 10-meter board. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Or maybe higher.
I won't even walk up that high, let alone jump off something that high. And
I used to love that board. You want to know why, Matt? Because when I was in school, Miami was still suntan U back then, and we used to go to the pool to study. Believe it or not, we'd bring our legal pads out there, and we'd be looking at our notes for our tests and stuff. But at least one eye would be up on that board where the diving team and all the gorgeous girls that were the divers at that time were practicing their flips and stuff. So I used to love that, and they've never changed it. They've never rebuilt it or whatever. The same diving board is still in place.
Well, listen, look, when we were on vacation, it was my wife did one of those things where you get harnessed in and you drop into a canyon, on a line.
Oh, that sounds like that sounds.
I just watched. I said, I'm good. So I told Ray, I said, Ray, do not go on the high board. So 2 hours later, he texted me. I just went off the high board. I said to him, I said, what did I said? The one thing I said, do not do. What are you doing? He just sends me 4 laughing out loud emojis or whatever those things are. Those crying emojis. I don't know. I used to think they were actually people were sad. That's how old I am. Okay. Apparently, there are people laughing. But anyway,
people are crazy. The things they do. Everybody looks at parasailing, parasailing, this cool thing. You go up on this parachute over the ocean and they float you around, whatever. The one time I did that, as soon as the parachute went up, the canvas that you sit on slid out from under my butt. And I literally was dangling for 15 minutes in the middle of the sky down in the Keys, waiting for them to take this thing down or whatever. And, I said, I'm never doing that again. Well, a few weeks ago, there was a major parasailing accident down in the Keys. And
mother and her son.
Yeah, and the thing went haywire or whatever, and they crashed into the bridge or something.
Well, okay. I mean, I don't want to besmirch the sport or whatever you call it, but in that particular case, it sounds like the captain panicked in high wind and cut the line when he shouldn't have. Because I read the whole stories about that, but that's besides the point. The point is, I am not going to be doing things like that. I don't think Miami commitments should be doing things like that. Florida commitments and Florida State commitments, go ahead, jump off the top board. Do whatever you want, But that's just my personal feeling.
All right. So all in all, I mean, we could talk about a few of the kids or whatever, but I thought it was a pretty successful recruiting event yesterday. A lot of really solid prospects were on campus. Matt, I'll just touch on a few of them here. I'll go through the list. By the way, there's an entire summation still on the website for you guys that didn't catch up on it late Saturday and into Sunday, where we kind of give you a capsule look at most of the kids that were there and what they were saying before and after the event. So you can check that out on the website. But one of the more interesting ones I thought, Matt, and you mentioned him, was Jury and Dickey. He's a 5-star wide receiver from California. He is presently committed to Oregon. Okay, but he tried to couch this thing like, oh, nah, I was just hanging out in Miami doing a little fishing or whatever. I just passed by, not a big deal. Okay, come on, Jurian. Come on, man. Like, we know better than that. Okay, you don't fly from California all the way across the country to go catch a few fish and show up at Miami's elite barbecue and not at least checking it out. I mean, he befriended Jaden Rashada. He's serious. He's checking it out. Well, will he decommit from Oregon to Miami? We don't know. But Matt, what's your feel right now and your impressions on what's going on with Jurian Dickey?
Well, thanks for asking me, Gary. I appreciate that. So Jurian,
I just said I was going to ask you about some of these guys.
Well, it's very nice of you to include me in the show. So Jurian is
what are you talking about?
You're not talking that much today, so I'm just messing with you. Usually you go on for 7 or 8 minutes. I get to relax a little bit, have a drink, whatever. Anyway, so I started talking to Jurian back in January, and at the time he wasn't a 5-star. I wouldn't say he was a normal recruit, but he was a 4-star at the time. Had some big offers. He first got the Miami offer January 26th, so it's not like this was a kid who Mario came in and right away was like, bam, we got to get this kid. But they offered him in late January. They've been on him ever since. Big time fisherman, so Miami makes a lot of sense. He told me a while back, he's always dreamed of having a house in Miami. He knows about the Miami fishing. For some reason, he doesn't know Isla Mirada is the fishing capital of the world. I told him that on Saturday night after his thing wrapped up, and I sent him all the information. I told him probably should get a captain out there if he can, but because Isla Mirada is great. I told him to go catch a tarpon. So, which I've done once and I will never do again because it takes a lot of time and you're very tired afterwards. But anyway, this is a kid who, I don't know if people remember, he was actually on the Kelly Clarkson show because he celebrated a TD with his mom in the stands, and it was like really heartwarming for people and things like that. And he's with the Immortals, so he's got that connection to Miami. And he's been here a couple of times. He obviously was here in June visiting with when he was here with the Immortals, came back for the barbecue with his family, I should mention. This isn't just, for nothing. So yeah, you could say, oh, he came down, he caught a nurse shark. You could say, oh, he came down to catch a nurse shark and just have a good time, whatever. Like, no, he's committed to Oregon. I understand. Players who are committed elsewhere, they're not going to say, oh, it's 50-50 or, oh, I'm probably going to decommit. Like, that's just not how these recruits talk anymore. They're a little more wily in their worldview. And, at some point, there could be a decommitment. And if there's a decommitment, he's going to wind up at Miami. And if there's not a decommitment, he's going to wind up at Oregon. And, I'm not one of these guys who's going to predict one way or the other. Like, he wants to keep to himself right now. He's trying to figure things out and let him figure it out. If I had to guess right now, I would say that I have no idea. That's what I would guess. Some recruits, I have a much better feel for what they're going to do. With this particular kid or young man, I have absolutely no idea, but it would not shock me if he wound up decommitting from Oregon at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he said he wasn't really considering Miami. I don't believe him.
But this is what you say. These are the sound bites you have to give in order to be committed somewhere to a program. Like Clemson doesn't even let their recruits take visits. So the recruits that visit places, they ask us, don't say I was there. They literally tell us, don't say I was there. And we're like, okay, so we won't say it. So don't ask us, by the way, those of you out there, don't say, did so-and-so come who's a Clemson commit? Because we can't tell you if he was here ever, any Clemson commitment, because they don't want it out there. Jurian, we weren't the ones who said he was here first. I don't think he wanted it out there that he was coming, but other people said he was coming. So, it's fair game. And it's a natural response for him to say, listen, I'm not considering Miami. Because this was it was supposed to be an under the radar visit, and let him have his space and let him decide. He's a really nice young man, great family, and he just wants to fish in peace, man. Let him fish in peace, Gary, for God's sake.
All right. One of maybe my favorite recruit yesterday, just because we don't get to talk to him very much, is this guy, Matt.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Jordan Hall.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you something. Somebody asked me on the message boards yesterday, they said, who was the most impressive physical marvel that you saw at the barbecue event? And I said Gary Ferman. But a close second would be Jordan Hall.
Yeah, I liked him a lot, man. He's like an old school Miami guy. He's funny as hell. He's brash. He's confident. I mean, you see, he comes with the bucket hat and the shades. I mean, what a great look uh, that was. But it was just nice to be able to uh, see him and talk to him a little bit. Zuby Charles did a extended interview with him. The story is on the website for those of you that haven't read it yet. And everybody wants this guy. I mean, he can go anywhere he wants, Alabama, Georgia, whatever. I got the impression, Matt, that Miami's got a shot. I think Miami is right in there in the battle for Jordan Hall.
I just thought it was a little awkward when after you interviewed him, you went out and bought a bucket hat in the same shades. I mean, have your own style for God's sakes, Gary.
Man, I'm keeping these for life, man. These are I should have worn these to the barbecue, actually.
Oh yeah, right. Anyway, with Jordan, look, Jordan's one of these ones. Just got to wait, man. He's going to take his visits, go through the process. Florida, Georgia, Florida State are among some of the ones that are pushing for him. And you have to just respect the process. I know everybody wants to know where everyone's going and all this stuff, but recruiting, there's nothing ever for sure in recruiting, and especially there's nothing for sure with top recruits who have top programs going after them that want to go through the process. And you can go down the list, of the David Hickses and all these guys who are going to be taking 3 to 5 official visits in the fall. There's no predictions to be made. And fans can say, oh, we think you're going to go here or you think you're going to go there. But we've seen how many times over the years the fans think they know where somebody's going before they take all these visits, and they just wind up going somewhere else completely. So got to let the process play out. And this is one of those guys. Miami's pushing as hard as anybody, but pushing hard doesn't always wind up working. So I expect he'll take an official visit here at some point. I expect he'll make an announcement probably in December on signing day is my guess right now. And, we'll see where the chips fall.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm
by the way, defensive line recruiting, by the way, is the biggest question mark right now for this recruiting class, by the way. To me, who they're going to get.
You know why? Jaden. You know why, though? It's because those are the guys that are the most in demand. Those are the guys that are going to get the great NIL deals. Those are the guys that are going to be the biggest bidding war situations. I mean, defensive tackles are just hard to come by.
Yeah, but I mean, look, Ruben Bain, it would have been nice if Ruben Bain was already committed. That would probably make things feel a little bit better. Samuel Mpemba is a guy who, I think Miami's actually in decent shape with. He's come so many times. Damon Wilson, I think, is a guy Miami's in decent shape with. But those are defensive ends. So yeah, defensive tackle's a major question mark. I agree with you on that one. But I think they shake out pretty well in the class at the end of the day.
It's getting about time too. It's like,
and Hicks could be a tackle potentially too, by the way, if he grows into it.
But on some of these kids, it's getting about time for them to make up their minds. I put Ruben Bain in that category. I mean, it's been assumed he's coming to Miami. He's had a lot of fun. He's gone all over. He's been wined and dined by everybody. I mean, I think it would be good if he now declared himself, but we'll see what happens. All right, Matt, I also want to take a minute and talk about this guy because he was one of the better interviews I thought yesterday, and that is Nathaniel Ray Joseph. And man, he's feeling Miami now. He finally got to the point where he committed and got away from the whole Clemson thing, and now Ray is all about the Canes. And talk a little bit about that story.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite recruits in the last 5 years, maybe longer, just to talk to. I mean, he's got such an energy and a passion about him for Miami. And part of what, aside from the whole shtick about don't go off the high board, part of his thing was, why wouldn't you want to play for Miami? Why wouldn't you want to whoop on the schools that have been whooping on us? Represent for the crib. And when he speaks, he's how there's these people like me who speak very quickly, but then there's people like me who speak quickly, but sometimes they make no sense. He speaks quickly, but everything he says has a purpose. You can tell he just is innately able to communicate at a very high level with people. I think extremely bright. I think he's going to pick up on the nuances of defenses extremely quickly. That's what coaches have already told me. He's one of these guys who can play in year one. He's tiny, okay? He's tiny, but he's so fast. He really does. I've mentioned it before. The Roscoe Parrish maybe on steroids a little bit. Roscoe Parrish on steroids, meaning like just a little bit faster, straight ahead version of Roscoe with maybe not quite as much twitch, but that's what he reminds me of. And he's telling me how saying Hakeem, forget about Texas A&M, Andy Jean, what are you doing with Florida? He's just in everyone's ear, and he's got that personality, and just people are drawn to him. And I really think that him being on board can ultimately have a big impact, especially when they get down to that commitment, visit date right before that December signing day, where all the commits come and they try to get those 3 or 4, big whales, big fish, whatever you want to call them, that come in with those commitments right before signing day. This is the guy who I think can be that leader who really steps up and gets these people who are usually from out of state at that point, right? Maybe some in-state guys, maybe even a Hakeem, but get them comfortable with the rest of the recruiting class, feel like part of the family, not just the coach. People always talk about, the coaches made me feel like part of the family. No, at that point, the commitments have to make you feel like part of the family. And he's one of these guys who will do that. And I'll give a shout out to Jackson Carver too, because he took full credit on Saturday for starting the commit group chat. And the funny part of that was he credited Notre Dame for it, which there have been commit group chats going back till forever for Miami. They were gonna have a commit group chat. Usually it's a coach that actually suggests it, right? The coach will say, hey, here's 8 guys that are committed. Here's their contact information. Why don't you start a group chat with them or something like that? No. So in this case, he was committed to Notre Dame for lacrosse way back when, and he said they had such a great group chat at Notre Dame, which I find hard to believe at Notre Dame, but I'm just kidding. So he started it at Miami with the other 4 kids at that point that were committed, and he keeps adding them. And I said to him, so you're the administrator? Like, if you don't like a commitment who comes in, you just don't add him to the group chat? He says, I gave privilege. Anybody can add anybody, he says. So it's not solely at his discretion anymore. But I asked him to add me to the commit group chat. He declined, so I was very upset. So you know what? I'm taking him off my favorite recruit list. He's no longer on my favorite recruit list, Jackson Carver.
Yeah, he is a nice kid.
Yeah, really nice.
No
really
doubt.
Nice.
All right. It also was nice, Matt, to talk to Tommy Kinsler yesterday. For a kid that was always so hard to connect with during the recruiting process, he's a natural in front of a microphone. Matt, he's got that nice smile. He's a really nice kid. What do you think about Tommy Kinsler?
It's funny because every commitment we've had, no problem getting them to talk for a nice story on their commitment and their goals, talking to their coaches, whatever. Tommy Kinsler, I thought he was Jaleel Florencing me for a while. Like, he just didn't seem to really want to talk or even respond. He texted me back what day he was announcing. He texted me what time. But, hey, would you mind, just talking for a couple of minutes, anything like that? Even after he committed, hey, we'd love to do a nice, bigger story on you and sort of what went into your process and your goals. Wasn't interested, Then you meet him in person, and I don't understand why. He was super nice to me, very talkative, very chatty. We did a really nice story with him, I think, and very candid about, why he didn't wind up at Florida. And he literally said it was because of the coaches. He just liked the Miami coaches. When you compare the Miami coaches to the Florida coaches, he felt more comfortable with the Miami coaches, and he didn't seem that upset about throwing the Florida coaches under the bus when you say that, because that's basically what you're saying is, I just didn't like them as much. He didn't say it was because of the Miami program, the Miami history, a particular thing here or there, just the coaches. Like, that was his reason for coming to Miami. So kudos to Alex Mirabal, who he has to, be careful where he steps, because you could step right on Alex Mirabal's head with how tall this kid is. And Mark Cristobal, kudos to those guys. They literally are the reason why he's at Miami. And he's a big get. He can play anywhere inside to right tackle. He's most comfortable right tackle, but he's played some, he's worked at center a little bit. He's a very versatile guy, and you need those guys. You need those guys on the offensive line. You can't just have a guy who's a tackle or a guard all the time.
Matt, you also had a chance to talk to 2024 place kicker Abram Murray, and to our surprise, 24 hours later, he committed to the Hurricanes on Sunday. And I've heard this kid is an absolute beast. He had an amazing workout for Miami. They've ranked him the nation's top kicker in the class of 2024. And nobody's really thinking about this, obviously, at the moment. But this is a good pickup for the Hurricanes, a guy that's going to come in. He'll compete with Andres Borregales, but will be theoretically the next in line to kick at Miami.
Yeah, I mean, it probably did surprise some people, but as we wrote, in the wrap up after Saturday's event on Saturday night, it looked like he was going to make an earlier decision, wanted to take up a spot. He had already been here twice. He was here for the spring game by himself. He was here for a June 11th camp with Mario by himself, and he wanted his parents to come see it. And he flat out, when I said to him, what's the earliest you might decide? At one point, I was talking to him about this, and he said, we'll see, which is always an indication that maybe it'll be sooner rather than later. Because otherwise they say, oh, I'm going to wait. I'm seeing how many offers I get, so you read between the lines. And but yeah, really, really nice pickup. Got a very strong leg. When you look at him, I was joking, are you an offensive lineman? He's probably about 5'8". And
yeah, it was funny as heck. He comes strolling up the sidewalk like he stuck out like a sore thumb. Like, who the heck is this kid?
Yeah. He's not, you're not going to say, are you a football player when you look at this kid? 5'8", maybe 185. He has never kicked in a high school game at all for field goals. And the reason being his brother was ahead of him the last 2 years and is now at Temple. So, but he's a top-rated kicker by Cole's Kicking, which is a very well-respected organization. And they've tested him plenty. And I think was 13 for 15 on one of their competitions with a long of 58. He says in practice, he told me he had I think a long of 68. With no pass rush off the ground. So very strong legs. So he'll come in when Andres Borregales is hypothetically a junior, and they can compete for the kicking job. And at worst, Abram can be the kickoff guy because that's not a strength for Andres. And then he'll have a year or two under his belt to really figure out what he needs to do. And good for Mario. A lot of these coaches don't like to take up spots with kickers and punters, but it's such an important aspect of the game, and it's such an area where when you've seen Miami struggle on kicking, it cost them 3 wins that 1 year when I'm not going to talk who it was and point anyone out, but you fans all know who it was. He cost them 3 wins that 1 year just by missing extra points and field goals. And you can't have that. So to get somebody in and be able to test them out for a year at least before they're actually in a game with 80,000 fans, like you need to do that. So great move by Mario. Get the top rated guy locked up now. Why not? What's the harm? So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, what's it hurt? Yes, that's kind of cool, that they got the kicker. And like I said, I heard that when he worked out for the Cane special teams coaches that he just had an amazing workout.
And by the way, who is it? Marwan Malouf. I mean, this guy's been in the NFL, been everywhere, and he knows what an NFL kicker should look like, So there's no arguing with him about, is this kid worthy? Because he only got one other offer. Fans will be like, oh, he only has one other offer from Arkansas. He got that at a camp there too. Miami was his first offer. But these guys know what they're doing. This is a good pickup.
All right, all kinds of stuff on the website, off the barbecue, and we've got a story with Emory Williams. He's not running from any competition with Jaden Rashada. We got the Jordan Hall story, the Tommy Kinsler story, Nathaniel Joseph story. We got a story this morning on Damari Brown, Matt, and he's an interesting kid in that, obviously his dad played for Miami and things seem to be going well in his recruitment, but he's not committing and he's not really declaring himself. Your thoughts on where things stand with Damari?
I like that he's doing that. I don't want somebody just to commit to Miami to take a spot. A lot of recruits do that before their season. Oh, I want to focus on my season. Oh, I want to secure a spot. That sort of thing. And I respect the recruits that don't do that. And he's going through the process. I think Miami, if push came to shove and signing day was today, I firmly believe he would sign with Miami. But Clemson, Alabama, FSU, LSU, Oklahoma, there's just a bunch of schools that have been pushing really hard, and he wants to do his due diligence. And I think he'd be doing a disservice to Miami right now if he committed and then took all these visits. So let him go through the process, respect the process. And yeah, I don't think I think Selwyn wants to take some visits to watch his son play nearby. So so that very well might happen. But you guys can read the story this morning. You can see what he said. I mean, he was very candid. So, read the story on the website and, make your own determinations. Those of you out there on YouTube land.
All right. Lots of more stuff on the website that we'll talk about here in a moment. But first, let's hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
We here at LifeWallet take security very seriously. Our data security team is working constantly to make sure that your data is not accessed by anybody who you don't authorize.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah,
Excuse me, sir. Thank you.
I have talked to Steve, and he's thinking about it, and I'll be talking to CC. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
We use leading technology standards like biometric data to make sure that only you have access to your data and your identity is protected. LifeWallet gives you access to your entire medical history and information at the touch of your finger, so that it can save you time and can save your life.
Data transfer complete.
All right, Matt, let me touch on a few of the other things that are on the website today. You're going to start seeing football coverage amping up here this week. We got Media Day tomorrow, so there'll be a ton coming off of that. But just some things that are on the website for you guys if you to catch up on. We continue our previews of the opponents. We've got Game 10, Georgia Tech, Game 11, Clemson, Game 12, Pittsburgh, all on the website for you guys to check out. We continue our CaneSport Player Performance Index features. We've been counting them down from 30 to number 1 on the website today. You can check out number 2, Xavier Restrepo, number 1, Tyler Van Dyke. So that and we'll have other stuff that'll be spotting in here throughout the day and the week as we start getting ready for the start of training camp this week, Matt. And to sum it all up for today for Good Morning CaneSport, I think that we can feel it coming, and you could feel the sense of urgency in the coaches. They've had their vacations, they're well rested and ready to go, and just a lot of excitement building in the program.
Yeah, well, I hope they're more prepared than I was for my vacation because, we started at watching the Maccabea games and my nephew winning the gold medal. And then we went over to Switzerland where we really didn't pack appropriately because I don't know if people know this. They ski up in the Swiss Alps in July. And, we went up to the top of one of these mountains and we're in shorts and a T-shirt and it's probably 25 degrees up there. So hopefully the Miami Hurricanes are better prepared for the season than my wife and I were for our Alps vacation.
All right. Well, I hope you're well rested. It's go time. It's go time for the Canes. It's go time for us here at CaneSport. If you are not presently a subscriber at the new CaneSport, our new site, please take advantage. When we moved to On3, part of the deal was that the Miami fan base gets this first year of CaneSport at On3 for $1. And our goal is to bring the whole fan base together and let you guys enjoy the community, enjoy our coverage. So please take advantage of that deal. It's a rarity. Obviously running sites like this are huge operations, both on the CaneSport side and the On3 side and the network side. And it's a rare opportunity to be able to come and join us and be part of our team for $1 for the first year. And, then of course you'll be charged regular price after that. But hopefully you enjoy it so much that, the minuscule $8 a month that we charge for CaneSport is well worth it for you guys. And if it's not, tell us why and we'll make it well worth it. So that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you as always for starting your day out with us. Happy to be back. Thank you for having patience while Matt went to freeze his butt off in the Swiss Alps. And I just went to float around in the ocean for a couple days. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.